I'm joined here with Taliah Borom, a women's soccer player. This is my first time talking to a soccer athlete, actually. So I'm really excited to learn about the experience, the sport. She's gone abroad. She's done some great, dope things from Indianapolis, Indiana. So yeah, we're talking about her experience at Goshen College, and thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to have you here. And like I said, this is my first time talking. I mostly talk to like the track, the basketball, the football, the sports that I'm familiar with. So this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but yeah, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be.
Thank you. So I gotta give a little background first. So her family, my family too, from Gary, Indiana. She mostly grew up in the Indianapolis area. I moved around everywhere, but yeah, that's how we know each other. But yeah, from the region, if people are familiar with that, the Northwest Indiana area. So went to what is it, Brownsburg High School?
Yep, Brownsburg High School.
Okay, yeah. So first off, tell me what made you pick up soccer? Like, what made you start with that sport?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I actually my parents had me in everything. So like cheerleading, I did basketball, I did soccer. Kind of like, when little kids are younger, they start off in a little bit of everything. And so it was actually my father's older brother, my uncle Sean, who suggested hey, I have a cousin and we're like a month apart. So she was playing soccer and he had told my dad that he should get me into it. So I started after that doing the rec league, playing for Pike right up the street from me. And then so it just ended up happening where soccer just ended up becoming my thing. Eventually I stopped doing the cheerleading, I stopped doing the basketball, and fully committed to just soccer. And so I probably started when I was 8, very young, and just stuck with it and never stopped. So I started when I was young, played in high school, did the travel thing, went on to play in college. And then even now that I'm out of college, still doing the rec league. So it's just something that, really stuck with me and I've continued to do for pretty much my whole life. I've done it more years than I haven't, which is crazy to say.
That's crazy because I actually I started out same thing. I did sports, music, dance, and all this. I hated cheerleading. Like, I like to dance, but I hated cheerleading. Was boring. I was on the sidelines cheering for the basketball. I'm like, this is kind of boring. And I switched to basketball, and then I started running track, and I never looked back. So it's interesting that you said you kind of put cheerleading to the side.
Yeah, I did. And so I have an older brother and I have a younger brother. So it was my older brother would play football and I would be cheerleading. And then my younger brother played basketball and I would play basketball too. And maybe it was because soccer was my thing that it really stuck and I didn't have to necessarily, share with a sibling. But yeah, it stuck with me and I haven't looked back since.
So what was the most difficult thing about learning how to play soccer, picking up soccer? I'm gonna say I'm just gonna be completely bluntly honest. Soccer isn't the go-to sports for a lot of the Black communities. It's just not. What were there any challenges there?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you get into high school and the competitive travel soccer, I remember in travel soccer we had 4 Black girls on a team of 16 or 18 and we were super excited just to have that many Black girls on the team. In high school, I'm trying to think, I might have been there might have been me and one other girl, so you were always used to being the only Black person. And then a lot of times you're traveling to these communities and you're playing soccer and having to be aware of your surroundings because you're in the small town on a field and you just never know. Parents would say things I remember being in a game and me and a girl were going for the ball. Obviously it gets competitive and I was in high school at the time and I remember a girl calling me Black trash, something that I had to experience in high school. And I just remember being pissed and everyone's you need to calm down, you need to calm down. And then you're telling refs and it's just things that you obviously want to handle with the most grace, but also at the same time, when you're in that setting, like emotions are high, like it's really hard to navigate those sort of things. And not something that you ever get used to. But luckily, I did have a few other women like on the team who could relate and establish relationships with them. On my travel team, one of the other Black women ended up being like one of my best friends. I went out of the country for the first time with them. And it was like just great having that relationship. And like her parents will look out for me, my parents will look out for her, because obviously the schedules are crazy and you're traveling every single weekend and then you have other kids. So like you would need to help out. And so like just having that community where we would help each other out and like come together, even though we were often the only Black kids on the team, there was still some positive there of like having that sense of community and relatability and being able to like build those relationships with each other.
So in the midst of all that, I know you found like your tribe, but what kept you encouraged when you did experience in situations like that, or what kept you from saying, you know what, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm not going to deal with this, and throwing in the towel.
Yeah. Honestly, I just feel like it's perseverance. Like I knew that I was good at soccer and soccer was my thing. Like I'm not good at a lot of things, but like when I stepped on that field, I knew I was like, this is where I belong. Like at the end of the day, trash talk all you want to talk, but like I'm here, I'm a competitor, I'm here to win. Like, and I am competitive. I'm very, very competitive. And so I just think like being a competitor, like at the end of the day, like talk is cheap. Like let's take it out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just remember even after the girl had like called me black trash, we ended up scoring right after. And it's like that's the best revenge, like going and scoring, and like getting the win. So I think just like being a competitor, wanting to persevere, and it was just my thing. And I knew no matter what the noise was saying that like I was good at it.
So let me ask, when y'all on the field, is it like basketball when people are like trash talking on the field and y'all kicking the ball, and like, is it like that or is it mostly like before and after the game?
No, I mean, you'll hear people like talk trash on the field. Like trash talking is definitely a part of it. Some games more than other. I feel like when you're like in those intense matches or like your school rivals, definitely like the school rivals. But then also like oftentimes like maybe you'll trash talk on the field, but like after the game's over, you still shake hands, and still like making sure you're being a
The
competitor,
sports,
but still
yeah.
having that respect and like, yeah, sportsmanship and like leave it all on the field, talk your trash on the field after the game, shake up and keep it moving. But trash talking is definitely a part of it.
Well, let's speaking of trash talk, and I know I'm pretty sure it went up a notch when you got to the college level. Talk about why you decided to go to college and go to Goshen and play soccer and on the collegiate level.
Yeah. So, like I said, I played travel soccer. So I would do high school soccer in the fall, and then travel soccer would be in the spring, and like the summertime. So I just knew when I went to college that I wanted to keep playing soccer. I wasn't ready to stop yet. So when I was looking at colleges, I knew I didn't want to go to a big school. I didn't want to have like a lecture class of 400 people. I wanted to be far from home, but like not right in the backyard. And then I also wanted to study Spanish. And so because I knew those three things, it kind of narrowed things down for me a little bit. And I just remember like during the season, we would go to like ID camps. I don't know if they're still called that, but like basically where you go, you sign up to practice with the team, work out with the coaches, and kind of like give them the opportunity to look at you and your skill set and start to network. And so I was doing that, going to visit a ton of different schools. And I think I had got an email from the coach at the time at Goshen, like reaching out saying, like, I saw some of your film, like would love to bring you onto campus. And so like I'm the type of person I just say yes to anything. I'm like, okay, I'll see like where it takes me.
Right, me too.
And see like what road this leads down. And so I was like, okay, we scheduled the visit. My parents and I went, and I really, really liked it. It's a super, super tiny school in Elkhart. So a lot of people don't know where that is, but I just say 45 minutes from Notre Dame. And then that helps people orientate of where it is. But it was a super small school. They had a soccer program, NAIA, which is similar to Division II. And then they had a Spanish program. So it just ended up being the best fit for me because I could play soccer in the fall and then I could, as a Spanish major, you were required to do a year abroad. So I was able to break up my abroad semesters and do like soccer in the fall, go abroad in the spring. And so it was just the perfect fit for me. And I'm so grateful that I found Goshen, because I know a lot of times you have like these aspirations of, I want to go to the UCLA, I want to be at the big schools. But I will say, like, even though Goshen was a really tiny school and it was NAIA, like we were competing against some of the best teams in the nation. Like maybe out of 10 or 11 teams, I think 5 were nationally ranked. We had one of the girls go to the NWSL, like very high level and competitive. And for me, that was great because I wanted to go to the next level.
And so where, and speaking of that next level, was it always your dream to go to the NWSL, or was it like, well, this ends here, or what happened, to where you was like, okay, because you're not playing currently, correct?
No, I'm not playing right now. I never, like, I remember being young and dreaming, like, what if I went, made it to the women's national team and like played in the Olympics or the World Cup. And I think as I've gotten older, like the NWSL has grown a lot. I think like when I was younger, it was not like this many teams and this many opportunity
Right.
for girls, especially to play professional in America. And now like it's completely different. There's a lot more opportunity. And even though I was younger, I ended up doing ODP, which is the Olympic Development Program, where you could like go and train and try out to make the national team. But obviously it was super competitive, and not to mention a lot of money,
Okay.
which is also another hard thing about like playing travel and trying to get to that next level. Like not only is it a time commitment, but it is a lot of money. And I'm just really grateful that my parents were able and willing to invest that money in me pursuing something I'm passionate about. But the crazy thing is, I wasn't like, oh, I want to make it pro, but I also never thought about the fact that soccer was going to end. And so, like, graduating college and being like, what am I doing with myself now? Like, I never was like, I'm going pro, but I also never took a moment to just be like, okay, what happens after college, you know? And so I think that transition has been kind of hard. And luckily, I found like a local rec league, which is actually really competitive because it's a lot of people who I played with when I was younger. And that's like brought its own community along. But it's just crazy that that I at least never stopped to think, wow, one day I may not have the blessing of playing soccer and missing traveling to tournaments and like preseason when we get to come on campus early and like get into shape. And so it just makes me appreciate that time a lot more now.
So are you thinking about maybe going the coaching route at some point, or just always keeping it as just making it a hobby now and, pursuing something else?
Yeah, I've thought about coaching. So I have a niece and she's 6.
Oh,
So she's,
so cute.
yeah, she's like at the age where I'm like, okay, like once she gets a little bit older, I think it would be fun to like coach her team and kind of like, hopefully I can get her into it. Right now, she's really into gymnastics, which is also cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, it would be amazing to kind of like coach and like work with her, but only if it's like something she wants to do. And I don't like, I'm open again, like I said earlier, I'm open to coaching, I'm open to continuing to play, like I'm just open to any of the opportunities and finding some way to keep soccer like a big part of my life.
I want to go back to a couple of things when you touched on like actually a couple of things, actually 3 things, but I'll start with like soccer growing to what it's become now. Do you feel like soccer is like an underdog or underrepresented sport, or how do you feel like in comparison to all the other sports in high school and in college, the big dog, the big three, the big basketball, football, baseball, did you ever feel like, dang, I wish I had that same spotlight as those athletes, or did it not really bother you?
I mean, definitely. Luckily at Goshen, so Goshen is a Mennonite school, so part of the culture of Goshen was that like we didn't have a football team, so soccer was like the go-to sport at school. Like everyone would come to the
Y'all were the big dogs. Okay.
yeah, like we were like soccer was the sport to come and watch. We'd have the student section, they had their chants, they had their cheers, and like I loved it. But I definitely will say that, like, of course, I'm really happy to see that soccer is just growing. I personally think that soccer is an international sport. Like when
Mhm.
I'm going abroad to like Europe and all these other countries, like the sport to play is soccer, or football as they call it. One of my English friends is like, it's not soccer, it's football. But so like I feel like soccer is just an international sport, and it makes me really happy to see that it's now growing here in America. But even still, when I was younger, like the level of soccer that like I was playing against as a child in America was still very high level. Like, as you said, I know like here in America, it's like football, basketball, baseball, and I love all three of those sports. But it is like really encouraging to see that now soccer is getting that support. There's more opportunities for the women. Even here in Indianapolis, like we have a minor league women's team that just started maybe not even a year ago, and we had already had a men's team. But just seeing the opportunities for the women to like continue to go and actually think about like, oh, after college, like I actually can continue to play and can continue to go pro. And so it's just really cool. And even now the World Cup is on, and it's just so
Mhm.
amazing to watch like how many young girls are on that women's national team and how young they are and all the amazing things that they're doing.
Man, we like some of our shows at work get delayed sometimes. And
Mhm.
so like our last show that got delayed was for the World Cup, and I was watching and I'm like, dang, that's one sport, because I've been to a hockey game, a baseball, football, basketball. I haven't been to a soccer game, but it looks so cool and interesting. And I know I want to say it was Jamaica.
Okay.
Was one, I think. So when I saw those, they were so excited. I'm like, it makes me want to go back and watch now. But
Yes.
you brought up another good point. Spanish and soccer or football. I studied Spanish too for like about 10 years. My mom taught Spanish for 16 years. Actually, fun fact, my mom was her parents' Spanish teacher when they were in Gary. So at one point. So but yeah, the Spanish. How did you get into the Spanish, wanted to study abroad, one, and major in it? Was it because of soccer? Did soccer influence the drive to want to do that, or where did that come from?
Yeah, so actually no. So as you know, like both my parents are in education. And so my dad was a guidance counselor when I was younger, and he would like literally do my schedule from beginning of the day to the end of the day. And so at Brownsburg, they had the opportunity for you to start taking Spanish in the 6th grade.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so he's like, you're taking Spanish. And obviously when you're in middle school, I'm like, oh my gosh, like learning another language, it really wasn't something that I ever thought I would continue to do. But then once I got to high school, like it just made sense to keep going. And
Mhm.
so he's like, you might as well just like stick it out, and keep doing Spanish, because we had up until like dual credit Spanish class.
Yep.
So
I did.
I was able to do
Yeah.
it like all of high school. And so my dad was made aware of a program through IU called IU's Honored Program of Foreign Language. Very long acronym, but it's this really cool program where it's for Indiana kids only. You have to be going into your junior or senior year of high school, and they have an opportunity for you to go and live abroad. And so obviously I did this when I was in high school. So it was like 2015, which is crazy to say, a long time ago,
Yeah.
almost 10 years.
Right.
Um, but at the time, you could study in Mexico, Spain, China. Like they had tons of different programs for kids to like go and study abroad in. But it was a language intensive study abroad program, which basically meant like I had to pass a Spanish test to say that I was at a proficient level to be able to be a part of the program. I had to do interviews. It was almost like a job. Like you were competing to get that position in the program. And so uh my first choice was Spain, but I ended up getting into the Mexico program. And it ended up being such an amazing experience. I went and lived abroad. I lived with my host mom, Mary Lou, for the summer. But part of that language intensive was that you couldn't speak any English. So we got to Mexico. They took our cell phones. I got to call my mom and dad and say I made it. And then after that, I was just thrown into like the Mexican culture, speaking Spanish, like getting into my routine. And like I would go and study. And so we had IU teachers, and it was literature, culture, grammar, and I'm missing the reading. Or no, literature is reading. I can't remember what the fourth one was. But we would go to school, we would take classes, we would go on field trips to like Chichen Itza. And so after I did that program and was in Mexico for 2 months, I came back and I was like, I want to study Spanish. And so that was what started me wanting to pursue a degree in Spanish.
Dang, I wish I had that kind of an opportunity because, like you, I think I started either in sixth or seventh grade, and
Yeah.
I did it through high school, and I even did it in college. I minored in it in college too,
Oh,
because my mom was a Spanish teacher for 16, 17 years, so she's like, you got to take Spanish, and and so, but that's the one thing I kind of regret in college is not doing that. I was curious but hesitant at the same time, so I really wish I took that opportunity to go abroad. I mean, I travel now, but it's not the same as living abroad and actually
yeah.
studying abroad. So that's cool.
Mhm.
That's dope. I'm like, I applaud you for that.
Definitely recommend it. I recommend like taking advantage of the study abroad programs, especially when you're in college. So like the one through IU was in high school, but like once I got to college, I was able to take advantage of studying abroad in Peru and Spain. And so I'm always like, please go study abroad, like if
Yeah.
you can. I know again, like it's sometimes hard financially, but also I think a lot of like university and colleges have programs for students to be able to do it.
Mhm.
My school had like a specific program for Goshen where like your tuition went towards doing that for a semester. So I am pro go study abroad.
So did like playing football or I'm not now I'm saying football, playing soccer, did that or football like they say, but playing soccer, did that help like with building connections over there, or did it give you something to do since especially being in Spain and Peru, was it like, you speak Spanish and now you play the sport that's the most popular, the more common sport over there? Did it help you like, build those friendships?
I definitely think it was a great connector. Like I remember when we went to Barcelona, we got someone who I was studying abroad with is also in soccer. So we went and saw Barcelona and Real Madrid play. So at the time it was Messi versus Ronaldo. And so it's like those are not two people that we get to see play each other in America like ever. And so it just always was a good way to like build connections, and also just continue to get to know people. I feel like it would be as soon as someone would be like, you play soccer, like immediately it's like, okay, who's your favorite team, who do you like? And so it would just be easy to start those conversations, and even just like going and watching the games, and having those cool opportunities. So I loved like just seeing, or even when you would be like walking down the street, I remember seeing one girl, she was the only girl on the boys soccer team, and she was like out there doing her thing. I'm like, I love seeing that. So definitely was a good way to just connect with people while abroad.
Man, yeah, I that's one of it's on my bucket list to get over to Europe.
Please.
I always go to the Caribbean. I've been to Mexico, so I
Uh-huh.
want to go over to Europe and get that part of it. And I
Mhm.
actually, like this week, it literally just happened. I went to a Mexican market
Mhm.
and I got it's like a Hispanic market, so a bunch of different cultures there. But anywho, I got some food and there was a lady in there. She did not speak Spanish. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I need to practice it before I lose it because I don't speak it at all anymore, really. I mean, I could still speak it enough to communicate, but not as fluent as I used to be, or either I'm second guessing my conjugations and things like that. But anywho, I helped her get her meal. She didn't know Spanish and she ended up paying for my meal. And I was like, see, this is a sign I need to start back, speaking it, and it made
Uh,
me miss it. Like, it just reminded me how useful it is.
Yeah, I'm the same too. Like even now in my job, I don't really use my Spanish, and I literally were just having conversations like I need to start practicing my Spanish. I think it's kind of like riding a bike, like it's something that I'm never going to forget because I've done it for so
Yeah.
long. But I also recognize that like living in a Spanish speaking country and speaking Spanish every single day is completely different than being back home where I'm not using it every single day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I need to start reading in Spanish. I love watching Spanish Netflix shows. That's really good because you learn
Oh
like
my gosh, I just told my mom I was watching Instructions Not Included the other day. We had to
I
watch
haven't
it
seen
in
that
high school and it was in Spanish. I thought I was the only one.
one. So like the Netflix shows, the music, I'm like, and next year for my mom's
Music
50th
too.
birthday. Yeah, for my mom's 50th birthday, we're going to Costa Rica. And she's like, you
Ooh.
should speak a Spanish, you should teach a Spanish class for the group so that everyone can know like the basics. And I'm like, that'd probably be good for
That
me. So
would.
I'm
Right. No,
ready.
so you don't forget it. What shows on Netflix?
I am literally blanking on, I am blanking on one of my favorite Netflix shows.
Me
I'm gonna
too. It was the
Google
one
it
about a
'cause
lady and like she was dating this singer. I cannot think of it. And then like they had a kid, but they had lost like it's really good. I can't remember.
I'm thinking the one
Lorena
that
de Flo, I think, or something like that.
say it one more time.
Lorena de Flo.
I've never seen that one. The
No.
one that I watched was about like high school kids. I literally am blanking on the name, and as soon as we get off, I'm gonna remember. But they like it's kind of like a murder mystery. Like they're in
Oh.
high school and like someone gets hacked and they're posting all of the kids like personal stuff on social media, and then it leads to one of the kids dying. Like it's like a mystery to figure out like who this person is and how the drama
Oh,
is.
okay.
There's another one called Fake Profile that I want to watch that just came out where like some girl thinks she's dating someone from social media and turns out it's not really him. But there's a lot of good Netflix shows.
Okay, I'm about to check it out then. Yes, definitely. I still listen to the music,
Yes,
especially
Bad
like
Bunny.
Bad Bunny. I would say Bad Bunny. Definitely still listen to the music, so that helps there. But before we wrap up, I gotta ask you about this because it's new still. I wasn't around when you were playing in college. NIL deals. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about athletes having the opportunity to make money now? Some as young as coming out of high school and then of course college.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as we know, the sports industry is very lucrative, especially these
Mhm.
like brand deals and partnerships. Um, and when they first came out, I'm like, well, kids are getting scholarships to go and play. And that's like an amazing opportunity, which it is. It's still a
Right.
blessing having scholarships. But I even think about someone like my brother who's now playing collegiate baseball. And so he's getting
Mhm.
scholarship money and it's great. But like the baseball schedule is intense. And
Mhm.
so he does not have the time to like go and get a job,
Right.
like literally most of the time baseball schedule you're missing classes, like you have like double headers every single weekend, and it just makes it really hard to be able to go and like let alone get an on-campus job, but especially an off-campus job that
Right,
like
right.
doesn't always understand the fact that like you're a student athlete. And so I think the NIL deals are like a great opportunity to have partnerships with the athletes. And I think there's like some nuances to like the accessibility, who's getting the NIL deals, how are we like making sure there's a way to be like equitable with those deals.
Mhm.
But I also think it's a great avenue to start partnerships with these student athletes who are bringing in tons of money. I'm going to the Notre Dame and USC game in October, and like those
Huh.
tickets were not cheap, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I paid that much and this stadium's going to be full. And it's
Right, right.
how can you have that partnership with the student athletes to make sure that like, okay, they're playing these games, but like once they go home they can be able to afford the necessities
Correct.
outside of just school being paid for.
Yeah, I think like especially when you put it like that, like they have to be able to afford things too. And I know a lot of people their argument is they have scholarships, their food and stuff is covered, but just think about yourself, you just want to be able to buy little things here and there, and you don't have that flexibility and affordability all the
Oh,
time. So
no, yeah, especially, and I feel like sports are just getting more intense now. Like it's starting younger and it's getting more intense, and like it just makes it really hard. And if you're bringing in this money already, like we do it with the professional athletes,
right.
like
It's a very profitable industry for sure.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, and before we go, I meant to ask you just a moment ago. I know you mentioned Bad Bunny. Who else is on like your locker room playlist? Like when you're getting in the zone for the game, what artists or what songs are you listening to get you ready, get you hyped up in that mood?
Right now, I'm obsessed with the song by Lotto and Cardi B, "Put on the Floor." I'm
Oh
obsessed.
yeah,
I like Glorilla. Her songs just hit too.
yeah.
Bad Bunny on the list. Drake is on the list.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that on your profile. Drake is your favorite artist, right?
Yes, I like Drake. I love Drake. And honestly, I like mashups of like all of them. If I can find a good mashup of like the Spanish with the hip hop and the rap, like I'm a happy person.
Is
So when
you?
I go to the gym, I put in like hip hop and Spanish mashed up so that I can like go hard during my workout.
Hey, I'm about to get into those. I know, like for me, I'll do I listen to a lot of the Afro beat mixes
Oh,
on
yes.
SoundCloud. I'm gonna have to do that.
Mhm.
Listen to the mashups and stuff.
Yes, the Spanish hip hop ones are good.
I'm gonna check
Mhm.
those out. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking with me. This was great. Like I said, we would play together here and there as kids and Gary and things like that. But I've always followed your journey, and like I said, soccer. It's always been fascinating. I guess maybe because I didn't do it, but just to see you follow your passion and then go the Spanish route and go travel abroad. Just so many amazing things. So proud of you, and thank you so much for chopping it up with me.
Yes, thank you. I'm super excited to be here. And same to you. I followed your journey and I love seeing you out here doing your thing. So keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Sid.
Bye.